For decades, Ken Barry lit up American living rooms with charm, wit, and an unmistakable warmth that made him one of television's most beloved faces. But behind the scenes of sitcom success lay a quieter, more complex life, one filled with private heartbreak, family devotion, and the struggles of a fading spotlight. Today, his abandoned home stands as a poignant reminder of a man whose legacy stretched far beyond the screen. From his wife and 3 children to the tragedy of his final days and the fortune he left behind, this is the moving story of Ken Barry, a star whose light still quietly lingers. Ken Barry's story began in the quiet Midwestern town of Moline, Illinois in 1933, born to an accountant named Darrell Barry and his wife Bernice, whose Swedish and English roots ran deep. One of 2 children, young Ken's early life might have seemed unremarkable to anyone looking in from the outside, but inside there was a spark, one that caught fire the moment he was 12 years old, sitting in a school assembly, watching a group of children tap dance their way across the stage. That was it. In that instant, he wasn't just a boy from Moline anymore. He was a future star. The cinema quickly became his second home, a place where the flicker of film reels spun dreams into motion. He watched Fred Astaire glide effortlessly in Easter Parade and Gene Kelly leap through on the town, and something inside him insisted, "That's what I'm meant to do." Determined, he convinced his parents to let him take tap dance lessons, and the rhythm of his own feet soon began to echo those Hollywood idols he so admired. By the age of 15, Barry's dedication had already begun to pay off. He entered a local talent competition sponsored by none other than Horace Heidt, a famed big band leader whose shows lit up radios and television sets across the country. Barry didn't just compete, he won. Impressed by the teenager's charisma and effortless charm on stage, Heidt invited him to join his traveling troupe, the Horace Heidt Youth Opportunity Program, a chance that would whisk Barry far beyond the borders of Illinois. For the next 15 months, Ken Barry crisscrossed the United States and Europe, singing and dancing for both the public and the American servicemen stationed at post-World War II Air Force bases overseas. It was an experience that would shape not only his skills, but his sense of camaraderie, forging friendships with fellow performers, including Height's son, Horace Jr., who himself would later carve out a career in big band music and radio. Those formative months on the road would leave an indelible mark on Barry, an early taste of the applause, the camaraderie, and the endless possibilities of a life spent in the glow of the spotlight. After finishing high school, Ken Barry didn't head straight for the bright lights of Hollywood or Broadway. Instead, he volunteered for the United States Army and found himself stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, his tap shoes packed, along with his uniform. It didn't take long for his flair for performance to surface. Within his first year, Barry entered a bass talent contest where the grand prize was a coveted appearance on Arlene Francis's Soldier Parade in New York City. With his tap shoes at the ready, he threw together a routine and snagged the win, earning his first television appearance and a taste of the stage he so desperately craved. In his second year of service, fate intervened again. Barry was reassigned to Special Services, a unit tasked with entertaining troops, and it just so happened that a young Sergeant Leonard Nimoy was in charge. Nimoy, years away from his Star Trek stardom, quickly recognized Barry's potential and became a mentor, encouraging him to seriously consider an acting career in Hollywood after the Army. Touring Army posts, officers' clubs, and college campuses, Barry polished his skills in front of live audiences and soon entered the All-Army Talent Competition. Singing There'll Be Some Changes Made, he placed third in the Specialty Act category and was back in New York City for a second TV appearance, this time on Ed Sullivan's Toast of the Town. That Sullivan performance turned out to be a turning point. Knowing Barry was nearing his discharge, Nimoy sent telegrams to studios and agents urging them to catch his protégé's appearance. The plan worked. 20th Century Fox extended an offer, Universal Studios invited him for a screen test, And before long, Barry had an agent and a contract with Universal. Though he was briefly eyed to replace Donald O'Connor in the Francis the Talking Mule series, the role ultimately went to Mickey Rooney. Still, Barry threw himself into Universal's talent development program, sharpening his abilities in jazz, dance, ballet, voice, and acting classes. Even though the age of the classic Hollywood musical was waning, Barry found a surprising passion for acting, which until then he'd seen merely as filler between musical numbers. The years ahead saw Barry's film career blossom in unexpected ways. He landed the lead in the 1969 musical comedy Hello Down There, later re-released as Sub-a-Dub-Dub, shared screen time with Eva Gabor and Werner Klemperer in Wake Me When, The War Is Over, and co-starred with Denver Pyle in Guardian of the Wilderness, portraying Galen Clark, the man credited with creating Yosemite National Park. Disney fans would also remember him for his charming turns in Herbie Rides Again and The Cat from Outer Space, holding his own alongside Helen Hayes, Stephanie Powers, and Sandy Duncan. In the mid-1950s, Barry took a detour to Las Vegas. After his Universal contract ended, he was invited to open for Abbott and Costello at the Sahara Hotel, performing song and dance routines and comedy sketches. It was there he met actress Dee Arlen, who played a key role in getting him noticed for bigger things. The Vegas spotlight suited him well, and he soon caught the attention of Ken Murray, a vaudeville legend who brought Barry into his Ken Murray Blackouts, a raucous stage variety show that played to packed houses. Barry not only performed, but also choreographed numbers when the production moved to the Riviera. Decades later, Andy Griffith brought Barry back to the Strip, teaming up with Jerry Van Dyke for a comedy music act at Caesar's Palace. Another pivotal chapter arrived when Dee Arlen recommended Barry for a role in League with Ivy at Los Angeles' Cabaret Concert Theater. There, he crossed paths with composer Billy Barnes, who quickly welcomed him into the Billy Barnes Revue. The partnership would span years and shows, with Barry becoming a central figure in Barnes's comedic musical revues. It was within this vibrant creative circle that Barry connected with future wife Jackie Joseph and other talents like Joyce Jameson, Bert Convy, and Anne Morgan Gilbert. Though a legal dispute temporarily disrupted one Broadway run in 1959, Barry's work in Barnes's shows proved a training ground and a launch pad for the many television and film roles to come. In an era when television was still finding its rhythm, Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts stood tall as a beloved primetime talent show, offering fresh faces a chance to break into the national spotlight. In 1957, one of those eager young hopefuls was Ken Barry, who stepped onto that stage and claimed victory. His prize? A week-long gig on Godfrey's morning program, which, in true old-school fashion, was simulcast on radio. Barry made such an impression that his one-week booking turned into 6, traveling alongside Godfrey to the unlikeliest of stages, an Omaha stockyard, a lumber camp in Seattle, the Boeing aircraft plant, and even the San Diego Zoo. Each stop demanded a brand-new routine, and Barry, ever the workhorse, delivered daily. Back in Los Angeles, the Billy Barnes Revue was generating buzz. One night, a young Carol Burnett caught the show and immediately recognized Barry's spark. At the time, Burnett was a rising star herself, appearing on The Gary Moore Show in New York. She persuaded the producers to give Barry a guest spot, and this marked the start of a creative friendship that would last decades. Barry became a frequent guest on Burnett's variety specials, and eventually The Carol Burnett Show. In 1972, the pair reunited on screen in a color remake of Once Upon a Mattress, bringing Broadway charm to the small screen. Barry's dramatic chops shone in the 1982 TV movie Eunice, a spin-off from The Carol Burnett Show's famous The Family sketch. Though he played Philip, Eunice's brother, in the film, he would later take on the role of Vinton Harper in the spin-off sitcom Mama's Family, creating one of his most beloved characters. It wasn't just Burnett who spotted his talent. Lucille Ball, the queen of comedy herself, invited Barry into Desilu's new talent program after seeing him on stage. Balancing commitments to both Ball and Barnes, Barry signed a 6-month contract and soon found himself in front of the camera in the Ann Sothern Show playing Woody the Bellhop, a quirky character that acted as a one-man Greek chorus in a bustling New York hotel. Desilu became a stepping stone for Barry, and when Ball needed a song and dance man for the Lucy Show, Barry was her choice. He not only performed a homage to Fred Astaire's "Steppin' Out with My Baby," but also shared a memorable duet with Ball. As Barry's TV resume grew, so did his range. From a recurring comedic turn as Dr. Kapish on Dr. Kildare to cameo appearances as a dance instructor on The Dick Van Dyke Show, Barry proved himself a reliable scene stealer. But it was F Troop in 1965 that handed him his first starring sitcom role. As the clumsy yet lovable Captain Wilton Parmenter, Barry's slapstick prowess was on full display. The cast bonded over a shared mission to crack each other up between takes, and Barry's physical comedy, whether falling over hitching posts or executing perfectly timed pratfalls, was a highlight. During the second season of F Troop, Barry's manager Dick Linka, who also repped Andy Griffith and Jim Nabors, pitched an F Troop live show for Harrah's Casino in Reno. The cast assembled a full production, blending comedy and choreography, only to receive word mid-performance that F Troop had been canceled over a financial spat. But by then, another opportunity was knocking. Barry transitioned smoothly to The Andy Griffith Show, playing widowed farmer Sam Jones in its final episodes. When Griffith stepped back from the series, Barry stepped up as the lead of the newly christened Mayberry RFD, a natural continuation of life in the quiet town. The show retained much of its familiar cast and small-town charm, with Barry's song and dance talents woven into church reviews and talent show storylines. In one memorable episode, he performed a soft shoe routine alongside Paul Hartman, and in others, he'd serenade neighbors with tunes like Carolina Moon on the Porch at Dusk. Despite ranking in the top 20 shows by its third season, Mayberry RFD was axed during CBS's infamous Rural Purge, as the network made room for edgier, urban-themed programming. Barry remained a television fixture, headlining the Ken Barry Wow Show in 1972, a short-lived variety series that served as an early showcase for talents like Steve Martin, Cheryl Ladd, and Terry Garr. The following year, he was tapped for Kelly's Kids, a proposed spin-off of The Brady Bunch created by Sherwood Schwartz, where Barry played an adoptive father to 3 boys of different races. The pilot didn't get picked up, but Barry kept moving. Over the next 2 decades, Barry was everywhere. The Bob Newhart Show, The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, Little House on the Prairie, and even The Golden Girls. In 1983, he stepped back into sitcom stardom with Mama's Family, a spin-off of Burnett's The Family Sketches. As Vinton Harper, Barry's good-natured, slightly bumbling character became a fan favorite. After NBC dropped the show in 1984, it found new life in first-run syndication, running until 1990, and producing 130 episodes. Even as television evolved, Barry returned to his theatrical roots, touring the country in productions like Sugar with Mickey Rooney and Donald O'Connor, The Music Man with Susan Watson, and I Do, alongside Loretta Swit. He shared stages with icons like Gene Kelly, his childhood hero, in A Salute to Broadway, though Kelly had to step down as director due to illness. In the early days, Barry even did commercial work, modeling for print ads and appearing in commercials for products like tissues and cereal. Later, he became the face of Kinney Shoes in the mid-1970s and early 1980s, crooning the catchy Great American Shoe Store jingle in national spots. Musically, Barry left his mark, too. His first recording gigs came through the Billy Barnes Revue cast albums, and later, after an appearance on The Andy Williams Show, Williams invited Barry to record a solo album for his Barnaby label. Backed by a full orchestra, Ken Barry RFD was released in 1970, adding another note to the score of a career that, much like Barry himself, danced effortlessly between stage, screen, and song. Behind the bright lights and easy charm of Ken Berry's on-screen presence lay a personal story marked by both tenderness and tragedy. In 1960, as his career began to gather steam, Berry married actress Jackie Joseph, a spirited performer he'd met while working together in the Billy Barnes Revue. They were a classic Hollywood couple in the making, both talented, both driven, and both eager to start a family. But as their professional lives surged ahead, they quietly wrestled with a painful struggle that overshadowed their early years together, the heartache of not being able to conceive a child. Hope flickered in 1962 when Jackie became pregnant, just as Ken was making his mark on The Lucy Show. The timing seemed perfect, as if life was finally offering them both the success and family they longed for. But what began with excitement ended in unimaginable grief. Complications during a difficult delivery turned fatal, and their newborn son passed away just 6 days after birth. It was a loss that left the young couple shaken, forcing them to navigate fresh fame while carrying a private sorrow. Ken, in his quiet, determined way, buried himself in work, finding distraction and purpose in the whirlwind world of television sitcoms. Jackie, equally resilient, stood by him as they turned to adoption to fill the aching void in their hearts. Not long after, in the early 1960s, they welcomed a baby girl, Jennifer, and then a son, John, in 1964, around the same time Berry was leaping into stardom with F Troop. Life, for a while, found its rhythm again. For more than a decade, Berry balanced the demands of his rising television career with his role as a loving and attentive father. When the cameras stopped rolling, it was home and family that mattered most. He reveled in fatherhood, building a life where laughter and simple moments dulled the sharper edges of the past. But fate, with its cruel sense of timing, wasn't done with them yet. In the late 1970s, another phone call would shatter their carefully rebuilt world. Their daughter Jennifer, just 25 years old, was killed in a tragic car accident. The sudden, senseless loss reopened wounds neither Ken nor Jackie had fully healed from. The weight of that grief was staggering, compounding years of unspoken sorrow and wearing down a marriage already strained by the relentless pace of Hollywood life. By 1976, after 16 years together, Berry and Joseph quietly divorced. There were no tabloid scandals, no dramatic headlines, just two people who had once shared both soaring hopes and devastating losses, now choosing separate paths to navigate the rest of their days. And though Ken would continue to make audiences laugh and smile, the depth of what he carried within him added an unspoken poignancy to every pratfall, every grin, and every note of a song softly sung on a sitcom porch at dusk. Ken Berry's life, beneath the sparkle of stage lights and sitcom laughter, was a journey marked by resilience, deep loss, and quiet grace. After weathering unimaginable heartbreak in his early years, a marriage that crumbled under the weight of personal tragedy, the loss of a newborn son, and later the devastating death of his daughter Jennifer, Berry somehow managed to keep moving forward, one careful step at a time. Nearly 20 years after his divorce from actress Jackie Joseph, life brought a new chapter in 1994 when he met Susie Walsh, a stage manager whose steady presence would become a source of comfort and companionship for the next 24 years. But fate, with its merciless sense of timing, wasn't finished. In 2016, Berry faced another crushing blow when his son John, whom he and Jackie had adopted and raised with boundless love, passed away after a battle with brain cancer. It was the kind of loss that would hollow out even the strongest of spirits, yet Ken, ever the consummate performer, continued to step onto stages and into conventions, offering audiences the same bright smile and effortless humor that had defined his career for decades. Even as grief threaded through his personal life, Berry's professional charm never dulled. He remained a fixture at classic TV gatherings, his presence a welcome reminder of a kinder, simpler era in entertainment. Fans would recall his impeccable timing on F Troop, his soft shoe numbers on Mayberry RFD, and the warmth he brought to even the most ridiculous sitcom situations. Through it all, Ken Berry had a singular gift, the ability to make others laugh, even when his own heart was heavy. In December 2018, at the age of 85, Ken Berry passed away from heart disease, leaving behind a legacy built not just on television credits, but on a career that spanned over 60 years of joy, light, and unassuming brilliance. His Midwestern sensibility and natural comedic grace made him the kind of performer whose work never felt dated. Shows like The Andy Griffith Show, Mayberry RFD, and Mama's Family continue to air, their timeless humor still finding new fans, who, whether they realize it or not, are touched by the enduring spirit of Ken Berry. At the time of his passing, Berry's net worth was estimated around $4 million. Not the kind of fortune that headlines tabloid pages, but a testament to a long, steady career built on talent and likability rather than scandal. Specific details about the inheritance of his estate were never made public. With both of his children gone, it's possible his longtime partner Susie Walsh inherited what remained, but no formal announcement was ever made. Ken Berry, true to form, had always kept the most personal details of his life shielded from public curiosity. For most of his adult life, Berry made his home in Southern California, in the kind of house that mirrored the man himself, modest, inviting, and unpretentious. Unlike many of his Hollywood peers who retreated into sprawling mansions, Berry preferred a comfortable, classic home, likely with a yard shaded by mature trees and a living room warmed by old friends and easy conversation. It's easy to imagine a room somewhere within those walls, set aside for rehearsal or impromptu song and dance, a space where Berry could indulge his first love, performance, in private. Though the ownership and future of that home remain undisclosed, what lingers far more vividly is the memory of the man who lived there. Ken Berry wasn't just a sitcom star. He was a symbol of resilience, of finding humor amid hardship, and of a quieter, gentler era in show business when the greatest gift a performer could give was a well-timed pratfall and an honest laugh. And while the man is gone, his work remains. On any given evening, somewhere on a rerun channel, Ken Berry is still tipping his hat, tumbling over a hitching post, or crooning a tune on a sitcom porch at sundown. And in those moments, no matter how heavy the world might feel, he's still, offering audiences the same thing he always did, a reason to smile.